Hi, my name is Michael James and welcome to Foodie and Fit. It's been a while, but I want to make sure to update everyone as to my progress. So, big news, I am down about 27 pounds. So when I started this vlog, I said, you know what, let me post where I have been and where I'm going, and so I want to chronicle what I'm doing. So my goal was to lose 30 pounds, and I'm almost there. But that's not where I'm stopping. The thing with goals is you don't just try to go for middle of the road or go back to places you've already been. My goal is to improve and to get better. So right now the goal is to get to 195. I'm at 207 point blah blah blah. But the goal is to get to 195, and depending on how that goes, I may even go push past that as well, just because I want to see if I can. So right now, I'm at about 14% body fat. Things are changing. I'll post a picture just to show the progress between when I first started, like maybe a week or so into my cut, to now. And so I just want to update things. So a lot's changed. I've been improving. I really liked what's been going on. The thing is, you just have to stay motivated. I said when I first started this vlog that the hardest part would be starting. Because losing for me a pound or two, that's not a big deal. Especially when you're 6'1", especially when you're over 230. Like, that's, to me, is not the biggest of deals. But it was getting to the point where, okay, I knew as soon as I hit double digits, that's when it became real to me. So once it became real, I waited and I collected the data that I was tracking for my FitnessPal, using my Fitbit and using my Fitbit Aria scale just to kind of see how it was going. So too many times people like to change what they're doing. They're like, hey, I want to lose weight faster. You'll lose weight fast and consistently if you stay consistent and not just try to readjust things every week, every other week or so, just because maybe, and I had this happen where the scale dropped 4 pounds in a week and it stayed that way and then went slightly up. And a lot of people can get dejected by that. The thing is, you just have to remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you just have to stay consistent with it. So for me, I did make a couple modifications to my workouts and my dieting after giving it enough time to start seeing progress and kind of record what's going on. After about 2 months, I changed from the normal bro split of Monday chest and tri, Tuesday back and bi, Wednesday leg, Thursday shoulder, Friday arms, to a push-pull leg split. So I do a push movement, so tris, chest, a little bit of shoulders on Mondays, pull movement, chest, and back and biceps on Tuesday, Wednesday legs and abs, Thursday back to the push-pull, back to the push, Friday back to the pull, Saturday back to the legs and abs. So after 2 months, I wanted to switch to that and see how I was progressing. And it takes a lot to get used to, just because like you're making a change to a workout. For me, I've been sticking with the same style of lifting for a long time. I want to say at least 14 years when I have lifted okay, I'm going to stick the same workout. So it was a little bit challenging, but I found a good program online, a little bit modeled after Jeff Nippard's program, but just kind of making it my own for the movements and being able to understand. So you're not trying to lift the same amount, the same stuff. You're just making certain modifications. So it was odd because I wasn't lifting a chest to a muscle group as much as I was previously. But the fact that I was hitting it 2 times in a week, I was like, okay, hey, I'm a little sore, and now like it's just keeping my body working. So that's the change I made to my lifting, and stay consistent with the walking. But one of the things I did do for my diet was I reduced my calories. So once you make a significant change to how much body fat you've lost, you may need to readjust your calories. For me, I was eating consistently at 25 to 2,600 calories for most of my cut, and that had been very successful, and I just had to stick with that. Recently, within the last 2 weeks or so, I switched to eating 2,300 calories, especially since I've lost a good deal of mass, and then with it, a good deal of body fat. I need to make that change just to see how things are going. And so I'm still monitoring that with my Fitness Pal, monitoring that with my Fitbit. I'm doing those things. The problem what a lot of people have when they want to work out, get in shape, eat right, is that they start changing so much that they don't know what's working. For me, it's easy for me to make slight modifications and to let that play out. One of the things I've done with my diet is not only have I reduced the number of calories, which actually makes it a little bit easier just because you're not always having to bring a snack, and I can load up on lunch, or I can double up on the protein and then still hit those macros. Actually a little bit easier than 2,500 to 2,600 calories. Is just to, one of the changes I made was like, okay, let me make sure to track fiber. Let me make sure to track just some of the other micronutrients, just to make sure that I was getting enough. Because I wasn't as focused on that initially, and when I started going back and looking at it, I was just like, okay, well, when I was in my stall and when I was deciding to go down to 2,300 calories, I was like, well, what has changed and what has worked? And when I looked over the micronutrients, I was just like, well, hey, that's odd. I haven't, my fiber is low. So I think they say about 25 grams of fiber is the minimum requirement for, just daily intake. And I was hitting maybe about half that. And sometimes I have, even including fruit and having kiwi, and I was like, I wasn't as concerned about that initially because I was like, okay, well, I'm having broccoli, I'm having vegetables. Sometimes I have 2 vegetable servings with my meals. So one of the things I was doing was I started like, okay, I'm going to reduce my calories, I'm going to track my fiber intake and make sure I'm getting adequate fiber levels, because you want to make sure you're doing everything possible. You can eat 2,300 calories and still have terrible nutrition and not even think about it. Like, I'm eating healthy. It's just like, well, are you really? That's one of the reasons why I'm such a big proponent of tracking your food. You want to know, like, are you really eating healthy? I've had this happen before where, you think you're eating healthy. I went to Chipotle. No, I'm not going to get the sour cream. I'm not going to get the guacamole. I want to keep it healthy. I think you're doing right. And you plug into my Fitness Pal and you see like, oh my God, that was a caloric bomb. My sodium's off the charts. My cholesterol's too high. Everything's going from that one meal. And so that's why I've been keeping track of all your meals and like, okay, this is what I'm averaging. I know that my sodium intake is slightly below the recommended level. That's fine. It's just you want to hit the average. For me, especially since I've had high blood pressure before, and that was purely through being completely overweight and eating terrible food. I was on a burrito a day diet for a long time. That's not healthy. So that's one of the things I want to just keep track of, because if you keep track of it and you know where you're at, later on down the line, a doctor is less likely to need to tell you, hey, you need to keep track of this, or hey, you can't eat these things. So that's why looking at fiber, I was just like, well, what can I do? I looked up the high fiber foods. It was like, okay, beans, let me start cooking beans more regularly and substitute out my normal grain and put in beans, because okay, those are higher in fiber. That can work a little bit, but that was changing my macros. So I also not only would I make sure to focus on some of the other high fiber vegetables and things that I can incorporate into my diet. I started taking fiber supplements because it only adds a couple grams of fiber, and I even bought All Brand or one of the brand cereals to incorporate that in my diet, and like just having half a cup as a snack, I was like, oh man, this is actually pretty good, and that allowed me to get my fiber levels to at least 25, because that's the minimum. My Fitness Pal, I think it says up to 38, so I think it's between 25 to 38 grams of fiber a day. So you want to make sure you're hitting that because that keeps you regular. That there's studies that talk about fiber being useful to keep increasing satiety after eating, and then also just long-term health. And it also can curb insulin spikes in the blood after having high carb food. So especially if you're maybe getting a little tired in the afternoon, maybe you ate something that was just too much, that made your body produce too much insulin, and you just needed something maybe a little more fibrous. So those are the things I've been doing. Those were the minor tweaks that I've made that I'm keeping track of. Those changes, I'm not making any more changes, especially not for another 2 months or so, just because that way I can see what effects I've had. I've made those changes after giving it 2 months, a little bit over 2.5 months, and then I'm going to incorporate these changes and stick with it. So you don't want to start changing everything or not checking everything. I was talking to someone I know from when I used to live in Charleston, South Carolina, and trying to help her get started with food prep. Because one of those things is everyone wants to lose weight. Like most people. I'm not going to say everyone, but most people, if they're honest with themselves, they want to lose weight, and it's something that they consider and they think about. The thing is just like, to what level are you willing to do that? If you say, you know what, I want to look beach lean, I want that physique, or maybe you're looking at old photos of yourself and you're like, man, I used to look good back in the day. And just like, yeah, but back in the day was only 10 years ago. It wasn't like, I understand if it's 50 years ago, 40 years ago, that's a long time. But if you're just looking back to not even a decade ago, like that's one of the reasons that you usually get people to want to make changes. So in talking with her and getting her set up for what type of diet she should be looking at, she actually went to a nutritionist. And the nutritionist said what a nutritionist will say, which is based off of what the flat level of medical research, which is really important. But is your goal to just lose weight, or you're also trying to maintain muscle and get a certain aesthetic? So there's a reason why your doctor will say one thing, your doctor nutritionist will say one thing, and then if you look at the healthy bodybuilders or physique competitors or people who are eating in a sustainable way, but to have down to a science how to get ripped, how to get a shredded six-pack, how to get, like, there's a middle ground between the two. You want to eat in a deficit, but to what degree, and then how much protein are you intaking, how much carbs are you intaking, how much fat are you intaking. A lot of people try to cut carbs, which is the worst idea for most people. The reason why I say for most people is because that's not sustainable, at least for me. I love carbs. Most people love carbs. I would get some chips. I get salt and vinegar chips from 7-Eleven. I'm going to get certain candies. Everything that I like, for the most part, besides meat, is carbs. And so that's why you want to, it's not just, you want to be able to live a lifestyle and have a diet that will let you stay lean for a long time. What's the point of doing keto if you're going to have a beer on the weekend and throw yourself out of ketosis? Because it's never usually just one beer or 2 beers, no matter what anyone says. It's a couple beers. It's more than a couple beers. So why stick with a diet that says, oh, hey, you can't have a beer? While I've been dieting, well, actually, it's not even really a diet. I have been cutting, but it's a lifestyle change. While I've been making this change, I've still had beer. I've still had tacos. I've still had gelato. I've still had ice cream. I've still had chips. I've still had certain things, but I've focused my diet in to get 99% of the time that I know what I'm eating to such a degree that it doesn't impact me. The fact that, hey, 2 Sundays ago, I went to training, they had pizza. I had pizza for lunch. I was like, you know what, it's towards the end of the day, let me just have another 2 slices. And so I had 4 or 5 slices, and those are gonna count as my two of my meals, and that's it. And so, yeah, when I went home the next day, I weighed myself, weight spiked up. Next day, half that weight went away. The next day, all that went away. So yeah, it's high in sodium, high in fat. But like, it's just, if you lead a consistent lifestyle, you can have pizza, you can have chips, you can have whatever you want. And that's the only reason why I'm so adamant that people not jump on these fad diets. Don't do Weight Watchers, don't do keto. Not that there aren't people who've had great success. It's just, if you're huge into food, like, why not set yourself up with something that's easier? For me, for my meal plan, I incorporate gummy bears because I love candy and I love Haribo gummy bears. And so, hey, to actually have 13, which is a portion according to the back of the package, is a little bit easier for me than to say I can't have them and then suddenly get a craving and then give in. So I've stayed consistent by just like incorporating the cheats. My protein powder is vanilla, my protein bars are chocolate, and so I used to go double chocolate with my protein shake and my protein bars, and I was like, okay, that satisfied my cravings for chocolate, so then I was less apt to like, okay, I don't need anything. So I have a sweet tooth, I know that, and I incorporate that into my meal prepping, and so I'm less likely to cheat myself. But it's okay that I do cheat once in a while, because one cheat meal is not going to throw off an entire week unless you go crazy. If you forget everything else and then you just go balls to the wall, yeah, you can potentially throw off your whole week. I'm not going to be one of those people that are always dieting. The plan is to diet for a certain amount of time, to lose a certain amount of weight and attain a certain aesthetic, and then stop. And then go back up to maintenance caloric level, and then just stay consistent with that. I don't want to be like, I don't understand people who do keto, paleo, or some of these things that's great. You're going to lose a lot of weight if you stay consistent and if you deal with the adverse side effects of like the keto flu. I don't know why you would do anything that would say that has flu in the title. Like, oh yeah, you're going to feel horrible for like 2 weeks and then you'll be good. Like, a lot of people have gotten in much better shape than a lot of people that I know who do keto, and they still had their junk food, they still had their vice, they just stayed in control. So instead of overeating, if you go to a restaurant, you're like, okay, let me get this pre-portion. I know that if I still have all these extra fries or this extra half of my burger or sandwich out, I'm just going to eat it. So you do those little tricks to like, hey, let me just get to-go box early on and wrap my fries up. Or let me have my sandwich wrapped up, or half here, half to go. And you can do those little things so it's easier. That's a huge reason why I'm so adamant about just tracking your macros and counting your calories. Those are just two simple things. And then eventually, I'm not actually even doing that as much. Like, I still weigh my food, but I don't have to sit there on MyFitnessPal until the end of the day inputting everything, because like I already know what I ate. Oh, what did I have for dinner, for breakfast today? Oh, I had 4 ounces of ground chicken. I know because I weighed the chicken. So by the end of the day, I already have it in my MyFitnessPal. So it's just going back and like, oh yeah, I did have this, I did have that. And then it's very easy for me to calculate out my day and be done. The problem with some people getting overwhelmed by MyFitnessPal is they try to freestyle their meals. They're like, okay, I'm gonna do MyFitnessPal, but I'm not going to weigh my food, and I'm going to guesstimate things, and then I'm going to eat out a lot, and so it's hard to track. And then you're kind of setting yourself up for a failure because you're like, I'm frustrated, I don't know what I'm doing. This one sandwich, this one slice of pizza, that company is not in MyFitnessPal, I don't know, screw it, and then you give up. My goal is to keep this sustainable and make it a choice. So I've been doing this for a while and I've been successful. I'm almost at that 30-pound mark, and soon it's going to be 35, and then 40, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm happy with where I'm going. And that's another thing too, is your happiness. Do something which will set you up for long-term success and happiness. So don't do this for anyone else. I've had this where I love the fact that I have a six-pack again. I love the fact that I'm like feeling good and feeling confident. And most people, when I share this stuff, they are excited that like, wow, you've leaned out again. You're doing these things that really take care of yourself. Like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what kind of diet are you doing? What are you doing for exercise? They'll ask questions. And then I had someone who immediately said like, oh, put your shirt on, blah, blah, blah. And okay, hey, bro, I've known you for a little bit. Like, what's your problem? And he's like, well, you just always have your shirt off. And it's just like, first, I haven't in a long time. But for me, my perspective, and one of the things that I've learned when getting into the gym culture and the fitness lifestyle is that a lot of people who are not where they want to be are the biggest of haters. Like, that's just a fact. I've never run into someone who's in as good of shape as me or better who is an asshole about it. They like usually understand and they respect your hard work for like, hey bro, you came in here, hey sis, you came in here, you're putting up the weights, you're doing those things that it's very easy to respect someone's work ethic. It's the people who are so far from that and know that they could but just kind of gave up, those are usually the biggest haters. So I understand that. You're going to have, if you're trying to get fit, if you're trying to eat better, you're going to have people who want to say some negative stuff your way just to be an asshole or just because they're unhappy. Ignore it. Because while someone's telling you to put my shirt on, it's like, hey, well, bro, you're looking at me. Like, no one's forcing you to. And, all right, cool, I have a six-pack. And he's like, well, you're not that shredded. I was like, oh, I never said I was that shredded or I was that good. But give me a second. Give me 2 more months. We're going to see how this goes because like I have a goal that I know I'm going to hit and I'm working hard towards it. So a lot of people, like, I'm sorry, the fitness industry, weight loss industry, weight management industry, billion-dollar industry for a reason. It's because whether people say it or not, everybody is concerned about their weight to some degree. Like, I'm sorry. You don't have to be like, hey, you can be happy with yourself, but you're saying you've never had a New Year's resolution, you never looked at somebody, looked at your old photos, just had some reason like, hey, well, you know, I'm going to start walking more, or I'm going to try to eat better. And that's the thing is, I've seen people who will drink Diet Cokes because they want to eat better. They are making some of those correct choices, but they just can't freely admit, like, to what degree do you want it? For me, this is something that I want. Like, I missed having six-pack. Not because it's important or not because that defines me, but just because that was like, I was very unhappy. Like when you start getting those clothes that you had that you like that start becoming tight, or like, hey, these jeans that used to fit just fine, hey, these are feeling a little tight. So that's why I was like, hey, I'm back to a point where, hey, I can wear something fitted. Like this shirt, oh, the shirt's new and it's fitted. And that goes into back to the point of like what other people are going to say. Originally, when I used to not work out, I'd see people in fitted clothing or with no sleeves. And I was just like, you know, you make certain assumptions about people just based off of like, oh, well, look at him, Mr. Tight t-shirt or whatever, and not understanding it. When I finally started getting to that point, I 100% understand. The reason why is like, okay, let's say you work, and compare it to a well-endowed female. You can either fit one of two areas. You can fit your chest, you can fit your stomach. If you fit your chest, most t-shirts are gonna flow like a dress on you. It's like, okay, well, it fits my shirt, maybe that's your look. I mean, I know that was definitely a style coming up from the 80s. It was like, yeah, I'm just gonna have it super baggy or super whatever, but that's not, like, that doesn't, to me, look good. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start trying to fit my stomach because I don't, like, you kind of look fat anyways if you have a big flowing shirt or whatever, and just like, it doesn't look good to me. So that's the change I started making. And it's like, yeah, you feel self-conscious because I used to make that judgment of like, oh, okay, yeah, he just loves himself. And just like, no, first, you should all love yourself. Regardless of what shape you are, what size you are, it doesn't really matter. You should all love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, be willing to make the changes to get yourself to that point, because there's nothing worse than not loving yourself and doing nothing about it, because then it just ensures that continues. So yeah, these days I'm fitting my workout, I'm fitting my clothing to match my stomach, and so yeah, wear a lot more athletic wear. yeah, it comes off a little tight because when you start working out, you start getting muscles and certain things start bulging. But is that really a problem? And if it is a problem for other people, does it really matter? I mean, if they're in phenomenal shape and they're telling you something, that's one thing, but I've never run into it. It's literally just people who have, at some level, they wish they were lighter, because I know, because I've been there, and they're not doing anything about it, and it's just easy to be a hater and put in no work and no effort and try to not bring someone down to your level. So be positive. Remember, you're doing this for yourself, and it's tough work, but like that's why it's fine to show it off. And so for me, I used to always get it from certain friends of I'd wear no sleeves and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's comfortable. Like it's nice. Or especially in California, workout clothing is day wear, and then like those are things you get to wear with pride and show off. Recently, I had a chance to work on the show Ballers, and to see Dwayne The Rock Johnson, first, that guy is 6'5", 6'6", and like 240, 250 pounds. So like, I'm not a small person, 6'1". And when you see someone who's just like, okay, that guy made me feel small. But like, yeah, he wears fitted. Fitted clothing looks better, especially like if you're have some muscle or if you're thinner, like fitted looks better on you, and that's just how that goes. So like no one says to Rock, oh hey man, put your shirt on again on Instagram, because it's The Rock. And so if you get into Rock shape, you can do whatever you want. And so that's my goal, is actually to get not super huge, because that's never been my goal, but to take care of myself and to get as shredded as possible. Like literally, we're gonna see that, and that's gonna be part of that, is like, because you can still have food, normal foods to a certain degree, and still get abs. Like that's not something that's like mutually exclusive. So don't let anybody get in your head and knock you off this path. And if you're someone who wants to get fit, take this as an opportunity to make that effort. Like start making steps and plan it out, or else that way you don't find yourself in a hole of like, okay, I can't get out, or hit that wall. Big fan of planning your meal prep, finding out your daily caloric level for, hey, to maintain, to not lose weight. For me, it's about 3,000, 3,200 calories or so. So when I cut that down, like that's how, like cutting it to 20%, that's usually encourages weight loss. Don't try to go anything extreme, because that doesn't work. Eventually your body will start fighting you. I love it when I can have ice cream and then step on the scale the next day and lose more weight. If you're too extreme, those cheat days will stick with you like glue. Like you won't be able to get rid of that. You're like, I had one cookie and now the scale went up. It's like, well, yeah, your body clung on to every aspect of the extra cholesterol, the extra sodium, every aspect it gets, because you're in too much of a deficit. So it's just making a small minor adjustment and sticking to it. Or if you're going to work, plan out how you're going to have your meals, or plan out how you're going to have snacks. Snacks are big. Snacks and water are the biggest things that have caused me to fail in the past, because I never accounted for that. I needed to know, okay, I get hungry, and if I get hungry and dehydrated, I'll start craving way worse junk food than if I would have just brought, hey, some almonds, some Cheerios, gummy bears, or just brought little things to snack on that I know that I can put in my macros. So once you stay consistent, they're like, it's easier. Trust me, you'll enjoy it. Well, that has been it for Foodie and Fit today. Please make sure to just enjoy yourself, love yourself, or make a change if you don't, to get to that point, because it's important. Trust me, you'll be glad if you just take the time to put in the effort to get to where you want to be, than never be there and always be kicking yourself. So my name is Michael James, and this has been Foodie and Fit.